Welcome to Wild Her Wisdom, the podcast where bold meets brilliant and wisdom gets a little wild. Join Shelley and Mary as they dive deep into real conversations about life, leadership, creativity, and everything in between. We're here to spark laughter, light up inspiration, and celebrate the wild and wise woman inside you. Whether you're chasing dreams, finding your balance, or just in need of a good laugh, you are right where you belong. Let's jump into today's journey together. This is Wild Her Wisdom.
Welcome to Wild Her Wisdom. This is going to be a little bit of a different show today because Mary is going to be putting me and Polo in the hot seat. She's the hostess with the mostest. I'm Shelley. You hear my voice every day, but I'm going to be playing a different role. Polo, tell us about you and the hot seat you're sitting in, girl.
Woo, this is a hot seat. I could not imagine a better hot seat than in between you two. So,
or a hot seat sandwich. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly be that. Cream in the middle of your Oreo. I love it. My name is Polo Tate. I am an author and a speaker and a soul activator, we'll say. So happy to be here and so happy to be partnering with Miss Shelley to bring an incredible, part 2 of our first workshop series. This one is called Unapologetically Heard.
You know, I'm your biggest fan. I want to take over the podcast from here on out and to turn you into a guest. Nice. And I want you guys both actually to tell me a little bit more about Unapologetically Heard. What will the workshop entail?
Yeah, I'll jump in first, Polo, if you don't. Okay. So Polo and I, we've been soul sisters since the moment we met. And one thing that we both work really hard on is to help women show up authentically and to be able to use their voice and set boundaries. We have different backgrounds, but the same heart as it relates to this kind of work. And so when we did our first workshop, which was Unapologetically You, we really focused on building that confidence, how you, feel good about who you are, waking up knowing that you're important. And this one is kind of like phase 2. So we're like, okay, now you know who you are. Now let's get your voice. How are we making sure that we are showing up in conversations, how we're being present, how are we influencing people? How do we, and this is really more Polo's area than mine, but like repair and resilience. So when you freeze, fawn, or flare, like how do you make sure that you can show up in those spaces and feel really great about the person that you were?
I am really excited about this. Polo, what's your take to this event? What are we going to be hearing from you specifically?
I am so looking forward to just really meeting people where they are, because that's all we can do, right? Is where you are and really understanding the perfection, even in your supposed imperfection, of the perfection of where you are and who you are, and really getting in touch with those maybe weirdo idiosyncrasies, but really beautiful gifts that you have that are authentic to you, that are unique to you, and really allowing yourself to learn how to speak with clarity and stand in your truth, so you can really gain the skills to communicate exactly what you need, how you feel, and so that you can honestly leave a conversation and be like, I said everything that I needed to say. I did it eloquently with grace, even though I was shaking in my boots. I still delivered what I needed to say, and I got what I wanted from the communication and the connection.
Right. And I think that's so important when you say when you got what you wanted from the communication connection, because that doesn't mean you're always going to get your way, but it means that you stood in your truth. Right. And what I see with women, maybe I'm going into host mode, Mary, stop me if you need to. What I see particularly in women, and I do a lot of coaching and speaking and leadership development, is that we have the sentence after the sentence, right? It's like we say what we want to say, and then we soften it, or we diminish it, or we raise our voice at the end like it's a question, and then we immediately lose credibility. And I want people to be able to go into conversations, even if they don't get what they wanted out of it, that they got what they wanted out of themselves.
Yes, I love that. Why do you think it is that we have so much trouble showing up authentically in the first place?
Goodness, how much time do we have?
a lifetime's worth of pain patterns and programming, which is exactly what it is. But, we wonder why we shrink or overthink or overexplain in conversations. And it is that childhood and cultural programming. Be nice, don't rock the boat, don't be too much. Oh, dear God. Or our nervous system's response to being on the spot. When all of our lives we've been told to just sort of step aside, cower in overt or in totally hidden ways. That programming is pretty, especially for women, is pretty strong. And so perhaps we've raised children, perhaps we've had families, perhaps we've had a career, and we haven't taken the time to really ask ourselves, first of all, who are we? What do we want? And to stand in that beautiful truth, because no matter what the answer is, confidence isn't about anything other than alignment. When your actions and your truth and your inner and outer self all match, that is confidence. You can stand and back your word because you know your body has your back, you know your life has your back, you're in alignment with what you want and where you're going, where you want to
Mhm.
go.
Can I jump in on that too, Polo? Because I love that you talked about confidence, because confidence it's a skill. Like people think, well, I just wasn't born confident. No, confidence is a skill. And when we're talking about unapologetically heard, these are your everyday conversations, right? Like most of us can have everyday conversations pretty well. This is how you show up in moments that matter and those high stakes conversations. And if we
Right.
haven't practiced that skill, if we haven't, got that muscle memory, as I always like to say, you're never done going to the gym, right? You're never done working on yourself. If we haven't practiced that skill, it's very unlikely that we're going to show up as the best version of ourselves in high stake conversations.
Yes. What I found when I first started using my voice was that when people hear it for the first time, they think you're just being a bitch. And
Well,
you have to be ready for that without having to explain yourself. Have you noticed that when you use your
yeah,
voice? No, I'm just using my voice. I'm just saying matter of factly, this is how I feel. And because you haven't heard it until now,
right.
you're naming me, and that's not my truth.
To take a recent Instagram post that I saw, I would rather braid water than care about anybody who thinks I'm a bitch. There's that piece of it, right? But it's true, when you do show up as your authentic self, it jars people because
Hmm.
they have put you in a box or in a corner of being a certain way. And what you'll find, particularly, I was going to say in the workspace, but just what you'll find in my experience is that women who speak up, who speak their truth, who don't apologize, who don't put verbal graffiti or diminish what they say, there's different terms used toward them than maybe there are their similarly situated male counterparts,
Correct.
right?
Absolutely.
But again, I'd rather braid water than care.
Yeah, I love it.
The only thing that because you guys covered it so beautifully, the only thing that I'll add to that is the only people who have a problem with your boundaries are those who directly benefit from you not having any. So
Yes.
literally, like, however they feel about you, someone else feels about you, it's none of your business. And as long as you literally, this is the beauty about confidence, because it's not about faking it or being too loud. It's not about like screaming your truth. It's not about being whatever a stereotypical definition of a bitch is at all. It's about complete and utter alignment between your body, your words, your energy, and your actions. When they all match, there is nothing that can compare to that. And people honestly cannot argue with that kind of power when you're sitting in the seat of your presence, in the sanctuary of your power, which is completely aligned. It's jarring to people. And sometimes that, like, that galvanized energy can be like, whoosh, and smack people
Right.
in the face. And they will get over it because you can respect that kind of confidence and that kind of truth because it's resolute. And there's no, even though you may negotiate, there's absolute absolve in terms of how you feel and what you're saying. If those two
Right.
things are aligned, watch
Right.
out. And that's why I think it's so jarring to people, especially those who haven't heard your voice before or seen your power present itself in a way where you voluntarily stand.
I think there's an element too that the folks that are challenging you on that or putting names on that haven't done the work on themselves yet. Right.
Right.
And so when you think of, I'm going to use the term bullying, like people go to the weakest link. And when you are no longer the weakest link, it's jarring. And then they realize, oh, okay, I need to move on. I need to move on to maybe someone who's going to be more, open to whatever it is that I'm emotionally or energetically needing from them at this point that this person is no longer going to do.
Right. And I have found that a lot of people that is jarring, and you have to stand your ground and stand tall and not have to shrink yourself when that moment happens. And it's a beautiful thing when you realize it can be kind of dangerous, right? It's risky. You're putting it out there, but man, the feeling in your body, you almost feel the cortisol just released when you speak your truth. And so I want to talk about setting boundaries and why it's so important.
I love a good boundary. I am a boundary setter from way back in the day. And I really am. Boundaries are how it's kind of like if you have a fence in your backyard. It's not saying you don't want your neighbors to come over. It's saying when I want you to come in, I'm going to open the gate, right? So boundaries are your self-protection. It is, your alignment with your values, with your toleration, with, whatever it is at any given moment in time. And so when we set boundaries for people, what we're saying is this is a go or no go for me. And to me, that's kindness because people know what I'm going to tolerate and what I'm not going to tolerate, right? And so I'm predictable. If your boundaries are all over the place, if you have invisible fence one day, then you take your whole fence down and then you put a big wall up, people don't know what to expect from you. So
Right.
boundaries are simply like guardrails saying, here's the sandbox that we play in together, folks. Anything outside that is not going to work.
Ooh, I love that so much. And I just want to highlight what you said in the very beginning because boundaries are not against another person. They are for us. That is what and I think it's important to really highlight this, especially as we get into our workshop, Shell Bell, is that literally boundaries start with ourself. If
Mhm.
we have wishy-washy boundaries with ourself, we just erode trust and erode trust and erode trust with ourselves. And you think it's confusing for other people when you have no boundaries. It is ultimately confusing for your nervous system if you don't maintain your boundaries for yourself and really make it a point to keep the promises to yourself as small or as big perceived as you think that is. It's huge. And so when we can establish, you know what, this is kind of a hard line for me. I'm not going to do this one thing. I'm not going to, I don't know, have a bottle of wine after 10 p.m. Whatever those
I
boundaries
am. I am
are. Okay.
going to.
That was
JK, I
for
go to
sure.
bed too early.
Exactly.
If you're up at 10, it is because of wine
A
specifically.
1000%. Yes.
But
So earlier you mentioned a mode that we get into. It started with freeze.
Freeze,
flair.
fawn, or flare.
Okay, explain that to me.
I think it's really important when we do start talking about our nervous system and regulation to really talk about the how important the intention behind your communication is. It makes all the difference what your intention is when you sit down and figure out really what you want, and then you go about how to communicate it. Because your body is going to tell you how you feel about something immediately. It's also going to be an amazing lie detector for your own personal truth. And if you are betraying yourself, if your intention is to win or prove or defend, your nervous system will be in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn or flare when you deliver your intended communication. So it's super important to really figure out what you want and then align with your truth. Is that really what you want? How often do we really ask ourselves, like, of course we want this person to hear us and we want to win the argument or whatever the thing we want to, achieve the outcome. But how often do we really ask ourselves, what do I actually want?
Right.
Sometimes it's actually purely for us in I want to be able to say and communicate my needs, and I don't care what happens after that. because
Right.
that will ultimately be so satisfying. Anywhere that we go from there, I will have already achieved what I deeply, deeply need, which is to be seen and heard and respected. And you start talking about your core needs and you start talking about all of those things. If you are clear, and boundaries are a really beautiful way for clarity, and clarity is such a gift. Your clear boundaries offer me clarity and the opportunity to do or not do in accordance with that, right? If you are clear with what you want, the rest is just logistics and communication. And the rest of that communication is easy because your nervous system and your body has your back.
And I think I again to Polo's point, and boundaries are for you. Where I see boundaries getting misused today is people say, "Oh, these are my boundaries, so you can't do this." Like
Right.
my boundary is, I don't want my husband wearing blue. That's about like that's not a boundary. Come on, people.
Right.
Boundaries are,
It's a fashion
you
faux
know,
pas, is what that is. Yeah.
right. Boundaries are, I don't get in conversations with people who are emotionally dysregulated. That's one of my boundaries because I'm not going to be, I
Mhm.
don't match that energy. Right. And so for me, I'm happy to have a conversation when we're both emotionally regulated.
Oof, huge.
I also think it's important to mention to people that being unapologetically heard is more than practice, it's years of work. And so this isn't going to happen overnight. But if you develop just some of those fundamental skills and start using them in practice, and the changes are just incredible. And you just have to keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing. I think I'm in year 3 of coaching with Shelley on these sorts of things because I was a great case sample for all of these things that we're discussing. No boundaries, wishy-washy, and it still happens, but you have to keep on pushing. And when you start seeing it happen, wow.
And it builds your confidence. Like again, confidence is a skill. And when you show up for yourself and when you deeply understand yourself, you build confidence and it just keeps building and building. As James Clear said, as you know, I anytime I can reference Atomic Habits, I will. Where you are today is a lagging measure of what you did last year.
Yes.
And so you have to put the work in order to see the transformation. But when you start doing it in the micro moments, maybe not in high stakes conversations, maybe you do it in the micro moments, then you're like, oh my gosh, that worked. And nobody yelled at me or threw hot coffee on me or what have you. Okay, now I'm going to show up here that way. And that's
Right.
how you start building those skills so that when you do have that high stake moment, you can stop, take a pause, which most people never pause in conversations. They think we need to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. There is power in the pause. So you stop, take the pause, do the body scan. Where am I at right now? And then show up as the authentic version of you. It's a beauty that I can't even describe.
Oh my God, it's amazing. It makes my whole like body tingle. And to
Mm-hmm.
remember that courageous communication is not about being perfect or like never feeling fear. It is literally about speaking your truth with clarity and a little bit of grace. And even when your voice is shaking and your hands are shaking, and it's the first time that you feel that you've ever done that, this is this is the work and it's the practice and it's a lifelong thing. And if you weren't that emotionally like excited about it or nervous about it, you wouldn't care about it. So
Right.
it's a really beautiful measure that this is important to you. And it's
Yeah.
most important to your nervous system and your body and your heart.
Mm-hmm.
So when we are in this workshop, who's the workshop for? Who should show up?
Any woman who wants to show up to conversations authentically. We like men too, but we just gear our workshops towards women.
Mhm, mhm.
Any person who has literally ever left a conversation and been like, damn it, wish I would
Right.
have said that. Shitballs. And they go over, and we all have had nights where we're going over the conversations over and over in our head, or we're gearing up for a conversation that means a lot to us, asking for a promotion, defending a position, asking for a simple thing, going over something in review. Like for all of those moments, if you really can gain the tools and the clarity to call upon your authentic self, you are sitting in a position of power like you have never felt before. And we would love to be the ones to usher you to that point.
Yes. And watch the glow up. I love nothing better than watching women glow up.
Ooh, yes. Let's
So, for
go.
someone who's never been to any sort of workshop, what are the expectations? What if you're a shy person and you don't feel like you can talk to others, or you just don't know, something is holding you back from attending? What do you say?
I would say it doesn't matter who you are. We have women who come alone. We have women who come in groups. We have women who participate more, women who participate less. You are going to get a hug at the end of the workshop by me and probably Polo. That's one
Most
thing for
definitely,
sure.
Polo.
But, this is really a safe space. And that's one of the reasons that we focus these workshops on women, because again, we love men. Men are part of our lives, but
Mhm.
women show up differently when they are learning, when they are alone versus how they show up when men are introduced into the conversation or the experience. And so we want this to be a supportive space where people can come in, talk about what they need to talk about, share with other people at whatever level they feel comfortable, but mostly walk away with, what, there's something that I'm going to do today or tomorrow that's going to help me feel a little bit better about a difficult conversation that I need to have.
If you have any one of those reservations about showing up to a workshop, showing up in a group, speaking up in a group of people, this workshop, this safe space, this sanctuary space is for you. This is exactly why we're doing this. And
Mm-hmm.
trust me, we have all been there. And I can only speak for myself, but I've seen Shelley in action, and I can tell you that we are going to be just as vulnerable as we ask you to be. And therein lies the beauty of it, because in that space is where the most transformation can take place. So if you have the courage to just sign up, we will take you and usher you from there, and you will not be alone at all.
Yes. And also wear soft clothes. This isn't a dress up thing. Wear comfy clothes. We'll have snacky poos, a little bit of music, it's a fun time.
It's a fun, empowering time. I've watched you both in these workshops, and it is a truly transformative experience because you go in with a question mark. You don't know what's going to happen, and you leave going, "Damn, I feel really good." So, what is one takeaway that each of you hope people walk away with
Hmm.
after this workshop?
Mine is you are important
Hmm.
and you are practically perfect in every way. Okay, that was two, but that's what I want every person to wake up in the morning before we put all of our garb on, before we put our war paint on, as I like to call makeup. I want people to wake up in the morning and look in the mirror and go, I'm important.
I love that. And I would absolutely stamp that by saying you matter. And my deepest desire for everybody who comes to this workshop is to really understand that you were made exactly how you were made authentically for a very, very distinct and important reason. We need you, the real you, in the world. You wouldn't have been made otherwise. So take off all the masks, let go of your guard. You can take off your war paint. Don't show up with any of that. It's totally fine. The world needs you as you are and in your beautiful becoming.
Is there an age group you're focusing on for this workshop? Because I think it could benefit anyone from teenage to, 110.
Any person who is interested in doing the work is welcome.
Ooh, it's so welcome. You're in the perfect place. Come join us.
I think it would be a great thing for a mother and a daughter, or sisters, or coworkers. I mean, if you're a woman and you have a voice that you want to present as stronger, you show up, right?
Yep.
Mm.
I love that. It's a Mother's Day
Yes.
present for your mom. Bring her.
Let's head into final details about the workshop. When, where, how do we get tickets, and how much?
Yes. So the date is Saturday, April 18th, which is coming up here shortly from 1 to 4 p.m. in East Lansing. You get tickets at sdandco.com. Go to events and you can click the link right through there. Because I did have technology issues for a while, the price is still $99 because I don't want to penalize people who were going to expired links because I, in fact, am not a webmaster.
Let's
$99 to embody the truth of who you are. I would say that that is a bargain.
I
Add to
think it's a
cart.
bargain. Let's head into our Wild Her Wisdom no filter finale, but I'm going to flip the script on all of us and we're just going to ask each other questions. Answer
Ooh.
with the first thing that comes to your mind, and then we move on to the next person.
Ooh. Mary, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much more confident are you this year?
11.
Woo!
Oh my gosh,
I
that's
love that.
amazing. Love that. Okay, Shelley, what was the most profound nugget for you in doing this work to really find your voice, find your authenticity now?
A lot of therapy and
Yeah.
I mean, really, and self-awareness. I mean, really doing the work. I say this because I read it in the Course of Miracles. We're all here. We have the same curriculum. Only, the timing is only what's up to us. And I decided years ago that I was ready to stop feeling less than and to
Oof,
step into the fullness of who I am.
amazing.
Goosebumps.
Yes, you give me rolling chills. Whoa.
Polo, when you say show up as an authentic you, well, give me one descriptor word. Well, who are you authentically?
Um, it's a really beautiful question. And it's my own personal belief that we should be asking ourselves this, if not daily, often. Um, and I think probably the best way that I've to describe myself in this moment is maybe a joyful warrior. I think I'm a mixture of a lot of things. And I think right now, for the last little bit, it's been joyful warrior. And I think that will change as I change.
I love that. Shelley, how about you?
How do I describe myself authentically? Oh, with my new silver hair, I feel like I own the night. Um,
Love it.
I love it.
um, you know, I guess I haven't really thought about how to describe it because I feel so holy in who I am that I don't know if I have the right word for it. But I really strive every day to be predictable to myself and other people. So there's no question around who I am.
Love that. You want to hear mine?
Yes.
I might cry when I say this. It just came to me. Finally, I can say, I'm her.
Oh, I love that.
Do you get that? That woman that I always wanted to be, that I shrunk myself for, that I no longer do that for. That's her, and I'm her.
Oh my gosh. Mic drop. Mic drop.
Oh.
Right, I was going to do one last silly question round.
Feel free. Yeah, let's do it.
All right, Polo, because you are a raw vegan, please tell me what your favorite meal is.
Oh my God. All right. Okay, I will tell you lately my most favorite meal. It is a sprout salad with lentils and avocado and chia seeds and flax seeds, and it's super crunchy. Black sesame seeds, homemade dressing with olive oil and garlic and lemon juice and coconut aminos, and then a full rainbow of vegetables like yellow and red beets and purple cabbage and yellow and red peppers, broccoli, like just, oh my God, I'm nerding out over it so much and I cannot wait to have it when we hang up this call.
Oh my gosh. That's a little bit different than my favorite fast food joint of McDonald's, but
First of all, I love that. Everybody has to have a favorite.
Absolutely.
Mary, thank you so much for taking the role of hostess today and putting us on the hot seat. This has been super fun. You're an amazing hostess with the mostest, truly.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much. Truly. Thank you. And we can't wait to see you on Saturday.
All right. We will be back with another episode of Wild Her Wisdom very soon. Hint, hint, it's probably going to be the core four. So you'll want to make sure to tune in. Have a great one.
And just like that, beautiful soul, we have wrapped up another episode of Wild Her Wisdom. But don't let the journey end here. Come connect with us. Follow us on Instagram, like our Facebook page, and visit wildherwisdom.com to catch up on episodes, grab extra inspiration, and stay part of our Wild Her community. And remember, the conversations here are for your inspiration and empowerment, not professional, medical, or therapeutic advice. Trust yourself and reach out to qualified pros when you need to. Until next time, stay bold, stay brilliant, and keep living your Wild Her life. You are powerful, you are wise, and you are absolutely unstoppable.